Live.
Okay, well, welcome to the workshop today. And I know that there's some of you tuning in on Facebook out there, so that's awesome. I hope you enjoy the show. You can always type in some questions below if you like, and we can address them. So today, what I really want to kind of go over is some exciting new information that has come down through the major sciences. And this goes all the way up to the top, like MIT. The gentleman who won the Nobel Prize for 2016 is a guy named Yoshinori Asumi, and it took me a while to learn how to say that, but it's O-H-U-M-I. And he won the Nobel Prize for a term called autophagy, and I'll write that up here, because it's pretty important. So auto means self, and phagy means to eat. So what he really developed and discovered is that the body, under times of stress, will break down cells. Now, we all that makes sense to us, because we think, gosh, if I'm not eating, or if I'm stressed, my body's living off of available cells, available energy in my body. Well, what he really discovered and expounded on is the fact that when our bodies are under stress, they don't eat the healthy cells. The body's very smart. Our innate intelligence is such that it will destroy the weakest cells, from brain cells, heart cells, lung cells, immune cells, muscle cells. It's going to find the weakest ones, and they will be destroyed. And then it will take all those components and make new cells. So the body's really amazing. It's really smart. I don't think we give it enough credit. So with autophagy coming out, it has really given a lot of credence to what we've been doing in natural healthcare for a long time. So when we think of natural healthcare, there's health in general, there's a triangle. Okay? One end is physical, and that's bones, nerves, tissue. And that's what, as a chiropractor, I address nerve flow from the brain down to the body and back up. And then there's chemical. And that's what we're going to be addressing so much today, because chemical is hormones. It's the way our brain communicates through the blood system. So the body gets information to the brain through the blood system, and then these little glands in our brain put out signals to create emotional hormones, or adrenal hormones, to give us energy so we can run from the tiger, or sleep hormones. It's time to sleep, it's time to go to sleep. It will tell the thyroid when to kick in to give us more energy or relax us. Tells the reproductive organs when to get ready to have a baby or not. And so that chemistry is as important as the nervous system. It just has been, it's because of the chemicals in our environment, it's been interrupted and it's been basically damaged. And some people are exposed to it a lot more than others, and I'll go into why that is. The last one is mental, and these are the three, is it L-E or A-L? I can never spell right. I did it right? Awesome. So the mental part of the three, the triangle, it would be the third part of what's keeping us healthy.
Are y'all open?
Now, mental can also be spiritual, depending on whether or not you believe we're a spiritual body or we're not a spiritual body. This aspect of our health is very important. If you have a boss or a family member or somebody that's causing you stress, it's going to affect the chemistry and the physical. It can actually make you sick. It can cause disease. We know that having a lot of mental stress can cause an ulcer, a bleeding ulcer, right? Just from stress. So the fact that your mind can be so upset that it can burn a hole in your stomach is pretty amazing. So we want to take a look at how chemicals are affecting our body. So I can tell you that when I was very young, I was diagnosed with dyslexia at about first grade. I made a C backwards. And my teacher, I'm sure she's not around anymore, but Miss Dworkin, saw that I'd made a C backwards, and rather than going, this is probably the second time you've ever made a C, it goes like this. She went, oh, he's dyslexic, and threw me into this. Actually, it took me 28 years to get over that. Well, I was probably 4 or 5 at the time, so 24 years to get out of the stigma of being dyslexic.
So were you really dyslexic?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, now I have a teacher, several teachers that are, that are special ed teachers. The new diagnosis of dyslexia is different than the one I was given when I was a kid. They told me that when you saw an image, it would go into your eye and then flip up, be upside down on the back of your head, which is still true. But there was a place they cross, and they said, where those nerves cross, there's a defect there. And that was what dyslexia was described as. And it never made sense to me. So, at any rate, I got over whatever my reading disability was, but it took me till I was 28 to do it.
My youngest daughter was dyslexic.
Your oldest? Youngest, yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy. So, the other thing that affected me is I had a severe back injury when I was 10. I fell out of a tree, broke my back, but it wasn't diagnosed for 10 years. So I was just given pain meds for 10 years along with dyslexia, and that affected my ability to read. But when I decided, when I was carried into a chiropractic office after being on my back for 3 weeks at 28 years old, and I walked out because of that adjustment the chiropractor gave me, I decided I have to learn how to read. I'd had enough. I had the strong will to get over that reading problem. It took a while, and I did. But a big part of it was chemistry, because I'd had so many drugs polluting my body. And not only that, but I had a mouthful of mercury. And I also used to play with mercury when I was a kid, because you could get it at the 5 and dime store and break those toys open, and I'd collect it. So we found out that mercury is very damaging to the nervous system. We also know that 4 generations of heavy metals, mercury, and toxins come through our mothers, through the umbilical cord. So oftentimes, here's great-grandma, grandma, mom, and child, 1, 2, 3, 4. Great-grandma might have worked with lead windows or drank out of lead pipes. Well, in her blood, she carried that to her daughter, who also had her own exposure to heavy metals, mercury, which had been around for 150 years with the dental work. She had a baby and gave it to her daughter, who now gave it to her daughter. So this is the hidden thing. This is some of the newest information that's allowing us to understand why people have tried everything and they're not getting well. And they've tried all types of alternatives, all types of current traditional medicine. But what this has exposed to us is that everybody is exposed with a certain size bucket. And it's kind of the luck of the draw what bucket you get. Whether it's a shot glass, a 24-ouncer, or a 16-ounce glass. And we're born with that bucket already filled up with the toxins that we got from our mom. And it's a certain amount. So what we're finding now is when people in our lifetime get exposed to more and more toxins, that's adding to the already toxic load. So this person might get this many. She might have had a lot of vaccines. She might have been on medications. She might have not been eating well because the parents didn't know to give them food that wasn't processed, or they might live in Watsonville where they're spraying the fields with all kinds of bad stuff. This person might live in the same town, but her bucket's fuller. This person lives in the same town, but that almost puts that person over the edge. Now maybe a flu virus comes along, or some other kind of bacteria, or stress from life, going to school, who knows what, and they all get the same amount of more toxins. Well, that puts this person over the edge. When your bucket fills over, your immune system goes weak, your body's ability to heal is no longer working well, and you get sick. So this is where symptoms occur, and then that's where the body's no longer at ease, and it develops a dis-ease. So some of the new research is telling us how to break this down. So it's pretty amazing. So that's kind of, the new science is really showing us that, we know that the body's, people come into this life with a lot of toxicity. We get more toxicity One body is better to get rid of it than another, and eventually, if you live long enough and your genes aren't healthy enough, you will get some kind of chronic disease. And it all comes down to the live part of our body, which is the cell. So I'm going to draw a cell here, a human cell, and that's all that's alive in us. And in the cell, there's a little power plant, another little organ inside the cell, which you may or may not have heard of. It's called the mitochondria. It's basically the carburetor on your car. It's what, when you start your car, gas goes into the carburetor, fuel injection system now, but into the carburetor, makes power and pushes you along. So when this thing lives off of sugar. So when we consume protein or carbohydrates, it turns to sugar. It has to get through the cell wall into the carburetor to make energy for life. But it also, just like our car, it spits out toxins, and those toxins have to get out of our cell. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a perfect running machine. But what's happening, because of the toxicity, if this is a cell, this little toy is a cell, all these little strings on it are receptors that are only specific to one particular hormone. This one will only let insulin in. This one will only let progesterone in. This one will only let estrogen in, thyroid hormone, vitamin B, vitamin C, all those kind of things, different oils. So this is the cell. Now what happens because of the toxicity in our environment, our elimination system gets bad. You've heard of leaky gut, or they call it intestinal permeability in the medical field. They don't like to call it leaky gut, but it's the same, two words to describe the same thing. Then we start to take medications, or we're eating food that's inflammatory to us, like the gluten that has been altered so bad in America that it's very hard for us to digest. We're addicted to sugar. Sugar is actually more addicting than heroin, and people are just, they can't get away from it. Then with the stresses of life, you just start to consume more and more. Your cell walls swell up. So once that you get the swollen cell wall, this is like if you ever had poison oak. You know anybody have poison oak? I had my face completely swollen shut with poison oak when I was a kid. I remember I couldn't see. I had eyes, but there was no way for me to see because the skin was so swollen that the function of my body wasn't working well. So when these cell walls get swollen, they can no longer hear the hormones. They can't get into the cell to operate. So if we were to come back to our picture here, and so we've heard of free radicals, right? You know, they talked about that. They're floating around in our body and they're swelling up the cell wall. Just what happens is our liver, which is our major detoxifying organ, it cleans the blood all the time. It starts to get plugged up like an oil filter in your car. Pretty soon it's so plugged up that it just doesn't work anymore. Or in your house you have a filter for your air system, and pretty soon it's filled up with all kinds of dust that you can't, it stops working. Pretty soon the engine will heat up, and pretty soon it will burn up if you don't change the filters. Our body's the same way. So here's our liver, and dirty, bad blood is supposed to go through it, and then clean blood's supposed to come out. And then that clean blood picks up nutrients, carries it back to the cell. The cell uses it, kicks out dirty, bad blood, and it just keeps going through here. The liver empties all of this stuff into your intestines and then out of your body. What happens to our liver when it gets plugged up, it's inefficient. We've got dirty blood going around. It's kind of like if I had a bucket of water and I took a sponge and I kept trying to wash the wall with the same water. Pretty soon the water gets so dirty, the sponge would just be making the wall dirty. That's what happens in our body. At that point we get sick. So the thing is that what, as an example of why these hormones won't work, insulin is supposed to open the sliding glass door for the sugar to get into the cell. Well, as these cell walls get swollen, and we know that 50% of the United States population are insulin resistant, meaning that the insulin doesn't open the cell walls anymore very well. pretty soon this organ in your body called the pancreas is making more and more insulin, trying to push open that door. There's a lot of problems with this. It will eventually get in that sugar in there, or we would not be on this planet anymore. But pretty soon your pancreas can't keep up, so the medical doctors give you synthetic insulin. Now, hey,
Sorry.
that's okay. Too much insulin in our blood is very dangerous because it's like viscosity in orange juice. You know, viscosity is all the pulp in the orange juice. Some people love it. My kids used to hate it. You know, I don't like the pulp. But the viscosity, if you drink that real thick orange juice, just imagine your blood with way too much pulp in it. So when you get too many particles or toxins in our blood, it has a hard time circulating through the body, but it also at the same time makes the body sick. So just imagine this now. So we've talked about why insulin can't get into the cell, because the cell wall's swollen from environmental toxins. And those toxins affect our body to the degree that our bucket starts to fill up too much. My mother-in-law is 97 years old. She's not on one medication. She's so healthy that I have a to-do list every day when I get home. And if I don't do it, she knows it. She writes it on tomorrow's to-do list, right? But she's 97. Her bucket's barely half full. She's living very well. Now, some people get sick at 5 or 6 years old. We know that in 2030, they estimate that 1/2 of the children born are going to be autistic or develop autism. 1/2 of the kids in our country. Not other countries, but why our country? Well, no matter what, their bucket's too full. They've either been getting toxins passed down through mom, or their bucket's too full from their environment. So now here's the key to help you understand this. If insulin can't open the door, is it going to be any easier for estrogen to open the door, do you think? Yeah. So now you have estrogen trying to get into the body to make you feel better, to make you feel, for women, to make you feel sexy, for make you feel like you want to reproduce and to keep your skin healthy. But it's so swollen that you have the effects of being estrogen deficient. So then you go to the doctor and they say, well, you need more estrogen. So they give you more estrogen. And then what's the problem with taking synthetic estrogen? What did they discover in, it was like 2003? They found out that too much estrogen, synthetic kind, has caused breast cancer and endometrial cancer. But they gave you more estrogen to handle the symptoms of estrogen deficiency, meaning the cells couldn't recognize the insulin because it couldn't get through the cell. Same thing with progesterone, the other female hormone. Testosterone, the male hormone. Thyroid hormone, T3, same thing. If one hormone can't get in, the others can't get in because the cell gets too swollen and these receptors, number one, can't communicate into the cell. Also, what happens is, just like if you had solvent on something very sensitive, the solvent destroys those receptors. So it can cause permanent damage to the cell receptors. Now the good news is our cells reproduce all the time. So we have, our stomach cells only last for 5 days. Then they're sloughed off and new ones are made. It's like shark's teeth, they keep popping out. Our muscle cells last 120 days. So you're working out at the gym, within 120 days you got a whole new set of muscles. It's the same structure, but new cells, new life put in there. The heart cells, 90 days. So how can we have chronic disease, chronic organ dysfunction when we're getting a new body every 3-4 months? So the answer to that is kind of interesting. What happens is when we're born, barring any genetic defects, we have cells that are like probably a 10 out of a scale of 1 to 10. They're strong, healthy, vibrant, go-get-em cells, and when they produce another 10. But as we get infections, as we get sick, as we get stress in our lives, as we start to eat foods that are bad for us, they don't have the nutrients we need, empty calorie foods, viruses, bacteria, or poisons, toxins, heavy metals, vaccines, tea stuff, and our size of our bucket, these 10s become 8s. Pretty soon, the same process not corrected, these 8s become 6s. Pretty soon you've got 4s making 4s. This might be anywhere in your 20s to 80s. But if all of your body are operating as 4 cells, you're not going to have energy. You're going to be, your immune system's going to be weak all the time. You're going to be catching all kinds of diseases, and your organs are going to start to get sick. So what do? Okay, so that's why we started to talk with the word autophagy, which means autophagy. I think we talked about this a little bit the other night. Auto means self, phagy means eating. So what we want to do is we want to figure out, these cells are only going to last, we know, 90 days at most. Muscle cells 120. So as they die, we don't want them to start making 2s. We want to figure out how to start going back up this thing and get them as close to 10s as possible. Now we know that's possible because they're doing it in the top end of science routinely. And so when we stress the body, we want the body to go into autophagy. We want to stress it. And what that means is, you know, since World War II, especially in California, we've been able to sit on the beach, eat what we want, when we want, wherever we want, how much ever we want, with whoever we want. Because food comes everywhere, and there's no change in the temperature here. Our bodies aren't stressed. In the old days, you'd have to go kill a mammoth, and you'd be running after that mammoth for a month before you got it. Then we'd eat the mammoth fat and, mammoth muscle, and then about that time winter would come, and it was a harsh winter. So we'd have to, you know, stay in our caves and eat fat, and then maybe some grain that we saved. Then came spring, and we didn't plan well enough, so we'd starve for about 3 or 4 weeks, which is where fasting comes from. Every religion on the planet has fasting in it for some reason. Then the little green stuff starts to come. Then you get fruits and vegetables abound. We have primarily a vegetarian type of diet. But the vegetables start to die. Damn, we have to go get another mammoth. Get out your spears, let's go. So what happens is our body's challenged. We have to do different things, use different muscles. There's things in our body called microbiomes, which are bugs. There's 100 trillion bugs in our body covering it. We have more microbiomes. We have more bacteria than we have human cells. So we're more bug than human. Isn't that crazy? But those bugs are our doorway between the environment and our life. Without those bacteria, we wouldn't exist, because they live in our digestive system. And what they do is when food comes in, I didn't draw a stomach here, but you know, if we can imagine a mouth, food comes into our stomach, all that stuff gets digested and put into our intestines, and it breaks down the food and puts vitamins and minerals, proteins, which are amino acids, and fatty acids into our body so that we can produce new cells. So this intestinal wall has to be really working well. But what we know about the intestinal wall, I'm going to skip through some of my slides because I haven't been using them. But skip up to here somewhere. Okay, there's a leaky gut bucket. Now this isn't the bucket filled with toxins, but this is your digestive system. If our gut, this is where the food goes through. This is it passes into our body with the heavy metals, the toxins, the viruses, bacterias, bad food, chemicals, and such. These junctions open up. It's like if you imagine this is a tight junction, and only certain chemicals or foods are supposed to come through there, with things called glyphosate, which is Roundup, which is destroying our gut, let alone different chemicals, infections, bacteria, medications. Our gut's holes open up this big, and Mack trucks can pass through there, through the intestines, out of your colon, into your body. Goes through the blood and creates even more and more inflammation, more and more disease, and more of a problem. So we got to make sure that this tight gut, or this digestive system, is healthy. So one of the ways that we actually, oops, I'm going the wrong way, start to reverse this downhill trend is by getting the toxins out of our body. Number one, stop the continual influx of toxins. We have to change our diet. We have to get away from the heavy metals and get away from the foods that are poisonous. Get away from the formaldehyde in the clothes we wear or where we might work.
What is has heavy metals?
Heavy metals?
Yeah.
Well, the predominant source is our teeth. The mercury in our teeth is a big one, and that's controversial, but you know, it's really, there's so much truth to it that they actually, when they take the metal out of your mouth at the dentist, they have to take it away in a hazmat unit has to come. You know, they come in with it's dangerous. And I used to play with it in my hand as a kid, you know. We didn't know any better. I also used to go to a copper mine, and asbestos grows right next to copper. I had all these asbestos rocks in my house. Now, I think it's safe when it's not processed. But at any rate, what we need to do, there's 5 different things that we do. But first of all, we make sure we're not continually being polluted. If I'm trying to empty my kitchen sink and there's dirty water continually to pour in, it's kind of crazy not to stop getting the dirty water out of there first. And I don't have time to go into all of that today, but we stop that. Then we take these organs that have been damaged. Let's say my hand had been stuck in turpentine for a week. I've got to nurse it back to health. I've got to handle the wounds. I have to get the sticky swelling out of there. And in your digestive system, we've got to tighten up those junctions again. And there's certain nutrients that help do that. And then we've got to make sure that we're getting the body and the nervous system communicating with the organs again. So there's this process we go through. Pretty soon, this 4 is going to make a 5. Eventually, that 5 is going to make a 6. Whether we get up to 10 or not may not matter, but maybe if we're all at 7, we'll have a healthy life and we can die of old age. People don't die of old age anymore, very rarely. My mother-in-law probably will in another 20 years, because she doesn't have anything wrong with her, but most of us have terrible things. Now, one of the biggest problems that I wanted to address is Alzheimer's disease, because what we know is as we get too much insulin in our blood, which 1/2 of the adult population, actually even the kids, have type 2 diabetes. They used to call it adult onset, but now so many kids have diabetes they had to change it to type 2 diabetes. There's so many people with too much insulin in their blood that it is actually getting into the brain, and there's a diabetes type 3. Does anybody know another name for that? It's called Alzheimer's disease. So diabetes type 3 is now a new term for Alzheimer's disease, because if you take a look at what happens in the brain, here's why I have a lot of paper. Here's your brain, and there's a barrier just like this that is called the blood-brain barrier that only lets good things into our brain and keeps the bad things out, except for since about 1900, the chemicals that they've made don't obey the laws of the blood-brain barrier. Our body's never seen anything like this in however million years that Homo sapiens has been on the planet. These chemicals are getting into our brain. They're driving the toxins, the heavy metals, the molds further into our brain, and they're disrupting the function. So now, here's our blood-brain barrier, has holes in it, and we're getting too much insulin in the brain, and the insulin lays down plaque, like on your teeth. It's called an amyloid, which means a protein. Amyloid means protein plaque, that's getting in our brain, and it's stopping the communication between the thought process and the ability to carry it out in life. So when we look at cleaning up the body, we're not just talking about, gee, I want to lose a little weight, or I want to try to help with my asthma, or I want to be able to look good in a swimming suit, whatever it is. We're talking about quality of life. So when we talk about this word autophagy again, wherever it may be, autophagy, this is what the Nobel Prize winner talks about. He says when we break down, when we starve the body, so what we want to do is get back to diet variation. One of the keys, nobody's doing all of it. They're doing bits and pieces of it. But through Dr. Pompa, who I work with, he's actually put together all these genius lines and made a system that works amazingly. And he's opened this up to a certain group of doctors. I happen to be very lucky to be one of them. Dr. Daniel Pompa, P-O-M-P-A, Look them up online, watch some of this stuff. I'm in communication, and Carol is in communication with them weekly on various cases that we need to work on, because I don't know everything. And I'm so glad I have this huge group behind me to help. And so what we're knowing is when we can starve these things called microbiome, the bacteria in our gut, we start to wipe out the bad lazy ones, so to speak. So in the old days, when we ate meat, the ones that could only digest meat survived. Most of the vegetarian ones died off. Then as we got into that vegetable part of year, the meat ones, the weak ones, died off. The strong ones hung in there waiting for next fall, right? But then the vegetarian ones that were strong enough to survive the winter of no carbohydrates proliferated, and they fed us. And then as we started to go into the fruit time, or grains, these ones died off except for the strong ones. And then these what survived. See, you see what I mean? And rather than having a whole bunch of everything that's no good for nothing, we had a little bit of the good ones that could bounce back when needed. So those weak ones aren't getting us sick anymore. They're not laying around eating, just kind of going, hey Joe, what do you want to do? Oh, nothing. Let's just sit here and consume food and, and excrete toxins because we're so weak. Now we've got the microbiome going, all right, we're going to do a really good job of keeping our guy healthy here. And then any of the weak guys, let's kick them out. We don't want them anymore. So that's the word autophagy, and that's what the Nobel Prize winner figured out. One of the other things we do, we put the body into moments of stress via various techniques. The body starts to produce stem cells, its own stem cells. Everybody's talking about stem cells. What are they? They're these little cells that they have no identity. They can become anything in your body. This is a perfect example of a stem cell. When an egg and sperm comes together, there's one cell. A couple days later, there's 2, then 4, then 8. This is called a morula. It looks like a mulberry or a mulberry or a marula. And pretty soon, it differentiates into a brain, a spinal cord, spinal nerves, all of the organs and cells in our body. Well, what Dr. Osami, along with this gentleman here, Dr. Longo, discovered, who's an MIT professor, amazing guy, Walter Longo, he discovered that under moments of stress, your body's going to produce more stem cells. And then along with another incredibly brilliant man named Jason Fung, he said after 30 hours of doing a certain technique, your body's pouring stem cells out. Because you've been wiping out the weak cells. If we're wiping out cells, what does your body think it needs to do? We're going to die unless we make some more cells. But now we've gotten rid of the bad ones. All of those nutrients have been put into the kitchen so they can concoct the most incredible recipes of healthy cells again. And then we get these stem cells that go, oh, I'm going to go be a brain cell. I'm going to be a heart cell. Well, that kidney's not doing so good. I'm going to go in there and be a kidney cell. So the body can actually start to regenerate itself. And it's so amazing that that's what we have the availability to do now. So, I'm really excited to be part of this, but this is the microbiome. These are the bugs in your gut. They're all over the body. You have 50,000 in your mouth. Now, anytime, one of my patients has been a nurse, emergency room nurse for over 30 years, amazing lady, and she says every time we go into a room they make us wash our hands with the sterile stuff. She goes, I hate using it, because she understands that there's microbiomes on our skin that's protecting our body. And if we do this antimicrobial everything, we're killing the good ones and the bad ones, and we're opening our body up for the susceptibility of bombardment of toxins in our environment. So that antimicrobial stuff is not good for you. We need that stuff. So there's really good microbiomes and bad microbiomes. And your body, under moments of stress, has one goal, and that's to survive. So it will survive if we make sure that the nervous system is working well, and we make sure that we get the chemicals first, stop the influx of them, get rid of the harmful effects of them, repair the damage done by those chemicals in there, like the turpentine on my hand, and then continue to feed the body the right things so that it can heal correctly. you know, it might take 6 months to a year to start this process, and you know, the cells are being reproduced every day, right? So stomach cells every 5 minutes or 5 days. So why don't we start the process of figuring out step by step what you need to do in order to get through this? So does that make sense? And that's the neat new science that Carol and I are so excited to be part of. We've seen some amazing results since we've been doing this, and the people that are teaching us are the top on the planet. So at any rate, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to go over. Did you want to add anything, Carol?
No, just in working with different patients, we have people that have all sorts of issues, right? I mean, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition that I've been dealing with for over 6 years, and I had tried everything. And so I was actually one of the first patients, really, and I had retired because I was too sick to work. So, but then here I am now, and I'm in here because it helped me so much. I mean, I literally have my life back. My energy's normal. And I've experienced this, which is really interesting. I actually have experienced, since I finished the program, I've finished month after month. I just noticed that my energy is longer, certain things aren't happening anymore. It's really fascinating. But with other patients that we work at, we have some. I had a woman that had early stage breast cancer. She was at stage 0. And she went through the program. She actually came to us and said, I want to try this. I've tried everything else. What can I do? And she went through four months, and she was really rigorous about everything that we did. And then she went in, after that, she was supposed to go in for a biopsy. And after it was all over, she said, you know, Carol, I called her. I said, okay, how are you doing? What's going on? And she said, Carol, they didn't find anything. So, and she's still doing that. And that's been 4 months now since she did that.
Is it all about like changing your diet?
It's changing your lifestyle.
Okay.
There's so many variables to it. It just depends on you, when you look at everybody as an individual. Now, she's an extreme case. Whether or not I can say that was a result of the program, I don't know. All I know is she had all of these things perfectly organized for her. She followed everything 100%. And right now, anyway, she's not diagnosed with stage 0 cancer. But that's one extreme. That's where they find the cancer cells are present. Dr. McCall can tell you different than I do. That's an extreme case that, you know, may or may not have
So what is
impacted.
stage 0? That's the very, very beginning?
It's the very beginning, yeah. So they were going in, this was her second time she'd been diagnosed.
She'd had breast cancer before.
She'd had breast
And it
cancer
came
before,
back.
and it came
Oh,
back,
okay.
yeah. But now she's clear. So, the point is, you know, if we can look at it just as an immune system, she was in an earliest stage that her immune system, doing everything that she did, I believe, and this is only my personal opinion, not a medical opinion, is that something happened inside of her body that her body took control. But then we have other people that are like me, autoimmune. I've had 2 other patients, 85 years old, both of whom had cancer in a prior, years and years ago, and gone through chemotherapy, and as a result of the chemotherapy, were having all sorts of difficulties later in their years. One had a rash that would constantly show up, and the doctors kept trying to cure it, and were putting her on all sorts of steroid stuff, and she couldn't stand it anymore. She had irritable bowel syndrome. She went through the program, and now her energy's back. She's eating normally. All that irritable bowel stuff is gone. So there's just energy is affected. I see people whose energy increases month over month. Sleep gets better. There's so many different things that I see depending on where each individual starts. And I think that's really the key here, is that every body is different. So whatever is going on with you or you feel is affecting your life at this time, that's the thing that's most critical for you at that moment. And so we started addressing it, as Dr. McCollum said, really started addressing it with what's going on down here. Because as you can imagine, once we start working on the body so that it starts releasing the toxins that it's been holding on to, well, where are they going to end up? They're going to end up here. So I've had patients that told me, you know, my gut isn't leaky, I'm totally fine, I'm totally normal. And we start the process and all of a sudden it's like, I'm getting this gas and what is all this going on? And my stomach's all gurgly, and I went, oh, that means that you've got something being repaired down there. Oh, okay. So, you know, it can be something as simple as that that tells us that the body's starting to do something. So
Yeah, that's great.
I'll just stop there.
Thanks.
Well, what is the name of this program?
Well, it's called Cellular, what is it called?
It's a cellular detoxification program.
Yeah.
So cellular detox.
Yeah,
And its
it's-
aim is to detox at the cellular level.
Yeah, it's basically there's all kinds of different programs and cleanses out there.
Correct, yeah, I would like to do some toxin, like detoxing in my body.
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling I'm getting very tired and my digesting, I have so much acid and it's getting more often
Mhm.
and it's not normal and which one I should use, like which one is the,
Well, this is really important because there's so many out there. They're
Yeah.
like 10 days, 5 days, a month,
Yeah,
but they stir up everything. It's not complete. And they're not that they're bad, they're just not complete.
okay.
So you really need to see, sometimes they'll have you detox without ever repairing your gut. And if you've already got leaky gut and you get toxins out of your body, they're going to make you sicker. And they'll be ineffective at best. So the program it's called True Cellular Detox is the name of the main program. And it's truly detoxing the cells. And by truly, meaning not only are we pulling the substance out of the cells, but we're making sure they get out of the body.
Mhm.
And there's one of the products you take called Cyto Detox can cross the barrier into the cell, grab the heavy metals, toxins, and molds, pull it out, and then get it all the way to the intestine, and then we have a catcher's mitt, grab it and take it out of the body. A lot of people say things like cilantro or chlera, these various chelators, they use them, they're good, but the truth is they're not strong enough. They get into the gut, and then sometimes this substance in our body called bile wipes out that and grabs the toxin and recirculates it into our body. So here's what I recommend we do is, did we give you one? No, you weren't at one of these talks. This is a really extensive questionnaire called the Neurotoxic Questionnaire. And I'll do a complimentary review of it for you. So you can do that, and then one day when you come in, Evelyn, we'll make a little extra time and we'll talk about it. And for you as well.
Handout of the program.
Thank you.
What he was talking about today.
So who are you?
Oh, who am I? I'm,
I don't know.
Is that still going?
yeah, so I'll turn around so people aren't watching my back because there's some people watching. I'm actually the personal coach for the Cellular Detox program. So I'll be the person that you'll meet with after Dr. McCollum says, yes, this is what you should be
So
doing.
what is your name?
Carol Montgomery.
I'm sorry, I was terrible at doing
Carol Montgomery, yeah. So basically what I'll do is I'll take you through whatever it is whatever part of the
day by
program he
day.
puts you on, I'm the day-by-day person, so making sure that you're doing things properly, and I'm also the educator. So one thing we haven't mentioned, but it's a key part of this program is a lot of education. So you'll be getting homework from me, so that basically you have the knowledge, all of this knowledge yourself, so at the end, you can do the troubleshooting.
Yeah.
You can take over from there. You know what to eat, you know something feels weird, and you immediately recognize what that is, and you know what to do to take care of it.
Yeah, because we don't want you to have to be dependent on always
Right.
asking us. We want you to go, for the 99% of the time, go, yeah, I had this and I did this, right on, I've changed my diet. I was time to get off of this diet program and go on to this diet program, which is, diet variation is really important because I talked about those bugs that we want to wipe out, the weak ones along the way. And so it's really amazing. I am just blown away at the amount of information that's coming from amazing sources there. And we'll tell you where to go. In fact, I would go to Dr. Papa. It's called Cellular Healing TV.
I
Yeah.
wrote it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just Google Dr. Daniel Papa, there's a whole, the one to watch is a video called Fix the Cell to Get Well.
Yeah.
He basically goes over what Dr. McCollum presented today, but in much more depth.
Yeah, and any of you out there in electronic land, Dr. Papa, True Cellular,
True Cellular
Cellular Healing TV.
Yeah.
And also in the bar line there, put what do we put for the Rebel Health? We have a closed group called Rebel Health, just say
Health Rebels.
Health Rebels, and we'll add you to our, see, that's my dyslexia still coming back.
Facebook group.
Every once in a while. It's a Facebook group, and you can get added to that and ask any questions you want. We'll try to answer them or direct you to the right place. And you guys too, if you're on Facebook, go to Health Rebels and just ask to join, because Carol or I are constantly putting information that's private, so you won't be getting a lot of junk. It would just be really pertinent stuff.
And
Health.
Health Rebels,
Health.
REBELS.
And I'm going to turn that off. Thanks, you guys. We'll be back soon. Hey, we're going to be on the air the second Saturday in July, KSCO, 3 to 4 o'clock, ksco.com. And you can look at us at Stepping In Radio. So listen in, we'll be going over this more. Thanks.